They say some gods are never meant to be worshipped. In the deepest heart of Aokigahara, where light forgets to fall, there stands a shrine erased from every map. Its name spoken only by those who vanish. Every 100 years, when a soul remembers that name, the lanterns relight, the bells ring, and the forest remembers everything it was made to forget. This is the story of Aya, the last keeper of the forgotten kami. Chapter 1: The Forest Path. Aokigahara had always been quiet, but that morning, the silence was wrong. Rain had just passed. Mist clung to the ground in pale sheets. Thin spears of light stabbed through the canopy, slicing the air like knives. Aya, a graduate student in folklore anthropology, carried a video camera. She wasn't alone. Kenji, her cinematographer, Yumi, who specialized in classical Japanese culture, and Sato, a local hired as their guide. "People say there's an old shrine somewhere in here, right?" Aya asked. Sato nodded, eyes darting between the trees. "There was, but no one goes there anymore. The elders say if you remember the shrine's name, the god remembers you." Wind hissed through the branches, breathing like something alive. Kenji laughed. "A forgotten god? Then he must be starving by now." The laugh died when a bell rang somewhere deep in the forest, clear, delicate, ancient, not the wind, not metal falling, a ceremonial bell. Aya turned. Through the mist stood a figure in white, motionless beneath a half-collapsed Torii gate. A fox mask covered its face, cracked clean across the mouth. Kenji's camera flicked on by itself. The screen rippled with static. For a heartbeat, another face appeared in the frame, not human. "Greater than, go back," it whispered. "Go back, before it remembers your name." Chapter 2: The Fox Mask. Rain returned as they stepped through the broken Torii gate. Each drop struck the leaves with the slow, steady rhythm of a heartbeat. The air smelled of wet soil and half-burned incense, sweet, metallic, nauseating. The shrine hid deep in the forest, its wooden walls carpeted with moss, roof tiles sliding loose. Before the main hall crouched a stone fox statue, mouth cracked, the jewel between its teeth long gone. Across its eyes clung a paper talisman so faded that only 3 black brushstrokes remained, claw marks in ink. Aya raised her camera. Through the lens she caught a table inside the hall. On it lay a fox mask, split from mouth to eye, a smear of dried blood darkening the wood. Kenji shone his flashlight. "Someone's been here, recently. The blood's still wet." Sato hunched his shoulders. "In my village they called the god here Yako-sama. Not kind, not cruel, just betrayed." Aya asked softly. "Greater than, betrayed by whom?" Sato said nothing. His gaze stayed fixed on the mask, as if waiting for it to answer. Voices in the trees. While searching the hall, Yumi found a scroll hidden behind the statue. The ink had bled with age, only one line was legible. "Greater than, 8 paths. 8 offerings." A thin laugh fluttered through the trees, not from any of them. It came from behind Kenji, outside the cracked window. He swung his light toward the forest. Nothing. But in that narrow beam hung the shadows of fox masks. Dozens of them, swaying where no strings existed, as if faces were watching from the dark. "Trick of the light," Kenji muttered, though his hands trembled. When Aya replayed the footage moments later, her breath caught. The masks weren't hanging. They were staring directly into the lens. The curse of the mask. That night they camped 50 meters from the shrine. Fire hissed in the damp air. Aya couldn't sleep. From the woods came a faint metallic chime, then a whisper. "Greater than, do not let it remember your name." She unzipped the tent. The fire was out, smoke curling low. In the clearing, Kenji stood motionless, head bowed, clutching the fox mask. "Kenji?" she called. No reply. He turned slowly. The mask had fused to his face. Blood leaked from the cracked eyes and mouth. A voice that was not his rasped through the mask. "Greater than, those who remember me, will never be forgotten." Kenji collapsed. Blood trickled along the tree roots, flowing backward, toward the shrine. The forest answered with 1,000 overlapping whispers. all chanting one ancient name. Chapter 3: The Forgotten Shrine. The wind howled through the trees like something mourning. At dawn the mist still clung thick, whitening the forest floor. Aya opened her eyes. Kenji was gone. Only the fox mask, now split completely apart, lay in a pool of dark blood. Yumi and Sato stared, too frightened to speak. Somewhere beneath the ground came the sound of children reciting prayers in a language no one understood. The shrine with no name. Aya forced herself back to the temple steps. Half buried in moss was a wooden plaque, letters eroded but barely legible. Greater than Hamata Jinja Yachimata Jinja. The Shrine of 8 Crossroads. Sato shook his head violently. Greater than, that name's forbidden. In my village, anyone who says it dies within the year. We call it the Nameless Shrine. Behind the main hall stood a locked storehouse, sealed with a rotted Shimenawa rope. 7 paper charms still clung to it, the 8th had torn away. Aya lifted her flashlight and ducked inside. The air was thick with the stench of incense and rusted blood. The sealed scroll. In one corner she found a cypress box split open. Inside lay a handwritten scroll dated Genroku 12, 1699. The trembling script read like a confession. Greater than, on the 8th night, Yako-sama grew wrathful. The villagers failed to offer 8 gifts. He demanded the souls of those who forgot his name. I, the priest Tomonaga, sealed him within the fox mask, dividing his power into 8 paths of the forest. Whoever speaks his name shall break the seal. Yumi whispered. Greater than, Yako-sama, one of the Araburu kami, wild gods cast out for their rage. Aya nodded. In the old Shinto lore, such gods weren't worshipped for blessings but appeased, lest their fury wake again. Erased from the map. Sato sank to the floor. Greater than, my ancestors lived in Yachimata. After the plague of 1701, the Edo officials burned the village, buried the shrine, erased its name from every map. But on storm nights people still hear bells and smell incense coming from the woods. Aya turned toward the door. Through the gap she glimpsed a pale figure in old-style priest robes. Hair tied in an Edo-era knot, holding a torn gohei wand. The figure didn't move. The second bell. Night fell again. This time 2 bells rang, call and response. The ancient Shinto rhythm between God and man. Aya filmed the dark through the window. What she saw froze her blood. Kenji, standing before the shrine gate, dressed in white priest robes, eyes blank, the bell Suzu in hand, whispering. Greater than, Hamatagami, Wasuriruna. Yachimata kami, do not forget me. Then he vanished into mist, leaving only the smell of burning incense and blood. The first seal. Inside the second scroll was a diagram, 8 circles joined by cords. A shrine at the center. Each circle bore a symbol and a note. Greater than east, mirror. West, bell. North, blade. South, blood. Northeast, candle. Southwest, incense. Southeast, mask. Northwest, a name. Aya understood. Yako-sama's soul had been bound in 8 offerings. Break them all, and the god would wake. Chapter 4: The Whisper Beneath the Trees. The forest was no longer silent. Since the night the 7 lanterns appeared, the woods breathed with voices, whispers, lullabies, footsteps circling the shrine. Aya sat close to the campfire, trying to steady her hands, but the air around her seemed to speak. The words were ancient, heavy with resentment. Greater than, Yachimata, not forgotten, not forgiven. Yumi whispered a short Shinto prayer. Yet the murmurs only grew louder, as if the forest were laughing back. The stone tablet. At dawn, they followed a narrow path to a stream behind the shrine. Half buried in mud stood a broken stone monument, its inscription still readable. Greater than, Hakoshin, Matsurora Tewa Naranu. Yako Kami, he must never be worshipped. A carved 9-tailed fox sprawled beneath the words, though one tail had been chiseled away. That's not Tamamo no Mei. Yumi murmured. Maybe a local echo, a fragment of her myth. Sato swallowed hard. Greater than, my grandmother said Yako-sama once guarded the harvest. But the villagers started offering human blood instead of grain. They thought it would make him stronger. It made him something else. Aya touched the cold stone. In that instant, an image flared in her mind. A burning village, people in fox masks, a priest bound to an altar. And above them, thousands of white foxes howling at a black sky. Voices underground. That night Aya woke to faint noises beneath the earth, hundreds of murmuring voices under the roots. She followed them to a great tree behind the shrine. There the ground had caved in, exposing a pit filled with human bones and broken masks. On the first skull, 2 kanji were carved. Greater than Kumotsu, offering. Aya stumbled back, heart pounding. A voice rose from the pit, soft and close to her ear. Greater than, you've touched my name. You've seen where I sleep. A hand, white, skeletal, reached from the soil and brushed her ankle, cold as ice. Aya screamed. When Yumi and Sato arrived, the hole was gone, the ground smooth as before. Only a single white fox hair, tinted red in the firelight, clung to Aya's palm. The blind hermit. They fled the shrine and followed the stream until they found a small hut. Inside lived an old blind man, alone. At the sound of Yachimata, he trembled. Greater than, you've woken him. Yako-sama was not born evil. He was once an Inari guardian. When men flayed his foxes for offerings, he took vengeance and slaughtered the village. They called him the god of forgetting, for anyone who saw his face lost all memory. The shrine was erased because he wished to be forgotten. Sato's voice shook. Greater than, but if he was sealed, why is he still here? Greater than, because the seal cracked. The old man said. Someone broke it, the fox mask. The call in the forest. That night Aya dreamed. She stood among foxes crawling from the shadows, their eyes glowing gold. A figure in white appeared beyond them, voice echoing like wind through 1,000 years. Greater than, Aya, you remembered my name. Bring the offering to the third path, before I remember who you are. She woke gasping. Outside, the trees swayed though no wind blew. Yumi and Sato were asleep, whispering in unison. Greater than, Yachimata. Aya knew then. Yako-sama was already inside their dreams. If they didn't escape soon, they'd become the next offerings. The reflection. Before dawn, she checked her camera. The footage from last night showed something she hadn't seen. While she slept, a man in white priest robes stood behind her tent for 3 full hours. Motionless. When the first light touched the lens, his mask tilted, and behind it was not Kenji's face. It was hers. Chapter 5: The Blood Seal. The forest smelled of iron and smoke. By dawn, the wind itself seemed heavy, as if hundreds of unseen eyes were watching every movement. One blood in the mist. Along the stream, the water no longer ran clear, it glimmered faintly red. Aya bent down and realized it wasn't mud at all. Thin blood was flowing against the current, drawn back toward the shrine. Above the trees, 7 red lanterns drifted in the fog, searching for the missing one. Greater than, the fourth offering. Yumi whispered, blood. To the third scroll. In the ruined storehouse, Aya uncovered a small scroll written in a hurried hand. Greater than, when the 8 offerings are gathered. The one who breaks the seal must bind it with their own blood upon the mirror. Fail to do so, and Yako-kami will take their form. Sato's voice shook. If blood is the offering, then someone has to give it willingly. Aya said nothing. In her mind she heard last night's whisper again. Greater than, bring the offering to the third crossroads. The voice had carried her own tone. 3 The third crossroads. They followed the compass north through thick mist until the path split 8 ways. At the third junction, the ground was torn open. In its center rested a bronze bowl filled with liquid the color of fresh lacquer. Aya stepped closer. In the bowl, her reflection smiled before she did. A cold wind circled her. 3 clear rings of a bell echoed through the trees. In the bowl's surface, Kenji's face appeared, blood streaming from his eyes. Voice broken. Greater than, finish it. Aya, let me sleep. Yumi yanked her back, but a single drop of Aya's blood fell into the bowl. It boiled instantly, congealing into a red sigil that pulsed like a living thing. Greater than, Yin Jie, seal. The forest shuddered. Far away, the 4th lantern blazed bright scarlet. For the interrupted prayer. That night they hid inside a side chamber of the shrine. Yumi lit a candle and began to chant an old prayer. But at the 8th verse the flame went out, and a child's voice finished the line for her. Greater than, offer blood. Offer names, that the god may remember. When the candle flared again, words had appeared on the wall in fresh blood. Greater than, Hitotsumodori, Yutsunenyu. 1 offering returned, 4 now burn. Sato screamed. On his arm, a long cut opened by itself. Blood tracing the shape of the kanji, ba, 8. 5 The priest in the dark. The bells rang a 4th time. The doors blew open. A priest stepped through, robes in tatters. Half a fox mask clinging to his face. Each footstep leaving blood behind. He ignored Yumi and Sato, walking straight to Aya. Placing a hand over her bleeding palm, he whispered, Greater than, the blood has accepted you. From now on, you are the keeper of the seal. Then he was gone, leaving only the scent of incense and iron. Aya collapsed, murmuring, Greater than, 8 offerings, 7 remain. In her dream that night, Kenji knelt before an altar. Skin stripped away, the mask fused to bone. Behind him, a colossal fox opened its eyes for the first time in 3 centuries. 6 End of chapter. When dawn came, the forest had changed color, every leaf stained dark red. In the distance, a 5th bell rang, and another lantern ignited. Aya looked at her hand. The dried blood on her palm had shaped itself into a fox with its jaws open. A voice whispered inside her head, gentle and terrifying. Greater than, you have begun rewriting the forgotten prayer. Continue, before I remember who you are. Chapter 6 The Old Photograph. That night Aya dreamed of walking through a forest of white ash. No wind, no sound, bones cracked softly underfoot. In the clearing stood a shrine perfectly restored, glowing with lamplight. On its altar sat a framed photograph. When she touched the glass, the eyes in the picture, her own eyes, moved. 1 The ancient photo. Morning, cold light filled the ruined hall. Yumi was prying open a small cedar box. Inside lay a silver plate photograph, edges burned. As they brushed away the soot, an image emerged. A woman in priestess robes, surrounded by 8 lanterns, holding a fox mask. The woman's face, Aya's face. Greater than, impossible, Yumi whispered. This style dates back to the Genroku era, 300 years ago. On the back, written in ink, Greater than Houshiniko Aya, Niko Aya, attendant of the kami. Aya's stomach turned cold, her own name, centuries old. 2 fragments of memory. That night she could no longer sleep. Each time her eyes closed she stood again in Yachimata village. Bells tolling, voices chanting. Greater than, offer blood. Offer soul, that Yako-sama may bless the fields. She saw herself kneeling before the altar. Blade in hand, a trembling man bound in front of her. The knife cut. Blood poured into a bronze bowl. From the darkness a voice purred. Greater than, good, Aya, you are the only one who still remembers my name. She woke screaming. Her sleeves were wet with fresh blood. 3 Blood on the wall. Sato found streaks of dried blood forming circles along the shrine wall. When he touched them, the blood grew wet again, tracing out a single character. Greater than, Aya. Greater than, he's using your name as a seal, Sato said. Yumi unrolled the 3rd scroll and read the faded line aloud. Greater than, if the keeper of the seal bears the god's former name, the seal will reverse. When blood and name align, the kami will enter that body. Aya looked at her own wrist. The dried streaks there had curled into the outline of a fox's grin. She understood, she had become the replacement for the ancient Miko. For the mirror in the photo. Yumi snapped a picture of the old photograph. On the digital screen appeared not only the priestess but also a masked man standing behind her, hand bleeding on her shoulder. The shrine lights died, only the camera's red glow remained. A man's voice echoed through the dark. Greater than, I was never forgotten. Aya. You remembered me for them all. Smash it, Sato shouted. Aya hurled the photo to the floor, but it didn't tear or burn. Instead, it soaked up her blood and vanished. 5. The mirror's reflection. That night Aya stared into the bronze mirror on the altar. At first it showed her face, then the reflection smiled while she did not. Blood trickled from the mirror's rim onto the floor. The reflection whispered in her voice. Greater than, you are me. And I am you. A kami never dies, it simply borrows new skin. The shrine trembled. From the ceiling fell a scroll painting of the same Miko standing beside a nine-tailed fox. In its corner were 4 ominous characters. Greater than the 8th seal ritual. 6. End of chapter. When Sato and Yumi burst in, Aya lay unconscious. The mirror shattered into 8 shards. Each shard reflected a different version of her: joy, grief, terror, and one face no longer human. Outside, the 6th lantern ignited. Wind carried a distant chant. Greater than, when the 8th light burns, the world will remember every forgotten name. Chapter 7. The woman by the Torii gate. Night fell over the forest. The half-broken Torii gate rising from the mist like a scar. The wind carried a long, weary sigh, the breath of someone who had been waiting for centuries. Aya stepped out of the shrine, clutching her broken camera. Through the fog stood a woman in white, her head bowed, hair veiling her face. She didn't move, yet the air around her swirled backward, as if time itself bent around her. Won the voice beyond the gate. Aya heard footsteps echoing hers, always a few seconds late. When she reached the gate, the woman slowly raised her head. It was Aya's own face, older, eyes deep and hollow. Greater than, so you've come back. Aya. Aya froze. Who are you? Greater than, I am you. The woman said softly. The one who sealed Yako-sama, and the one who first set him free. The fog thickened, washing the forest pale. For an instant Aya saw a different world, the Torii unbroken. Villagers kneeling in prayer, and herself, dressed as a shrine maiden, her hands still slick with blood. To the 8th ritual. In that vision, the older Aya stood at an altar, cutting her own wrist to draw sigils in blood. She chanted, Greater than, seal the blood, seal the name, let the kami sleep forever. As the final word left her lips, a child stepped into the shrine, Yako-sama in human form. Golden eyes glowing. He smiled gently. Greater than, if you wish me to sleep, I shall sleep within you. The Miko screamed and carved the last symbol into her own chest. Sealing not the god, but herself. 3 2 selves. Back in the present, the woman in white spoke again. Greater than, when I died, my name was erased. But blood remembers what the mind forgets. You are my rebirth, Aya, the last piece of the seal. Aya trembled. Greater than, if I'm the keeper, why is the god still awake? The woman smiled faintly. Greater than, because you remembered his name. A name is a key. Memory is the door. And when both open, no seal can hold. Around them, white foxes appeared one by one, circling in silence, each marked with the red symbol of the 8 crossroads. For the choice. The woman produced an old ritual dagger, its blade black with rust. Greater than, you have 2 paths. 1. Cut your forehead with this blade, renew the seal, and fade from every memory, like me. 2. Speak his name aloud, awaken Yako-sama, and live forever beside him. Aya stared at the knife. Behind her, faint voices, Yumi and Sato calling from far away, distorted like echoes from another world. She turned, but the Torii gate was gone. Only the whisper of bells remained. Dash dash dash. 5 The camera's eye. She sank to her knees, clutching her useless camera. When she turned it on, the grainy screen showed a view from behind her own back. In the footage, the woman in white stood behind her, one hand resting on her shoulder, whispering, "Greater than, from now on, we are one." The screen went black. When Aya looked down, the fox mask lay in her lap, bleeding from its cracks. Dash dash dash. 6 End of chapter. By morning, Yumi and Sato found Aya standing motionless beneath the Torii gate, eyes open, lips moving. Greater than, 8 paths, 7 lights. I remember him. When they touched her shoulder, she turned and smiled, her eyes glimmering gold. Far away, the 7th lantern ignited. Wind sighed through the forest, carrying a ghostly refrain. Greater than, when the 8th light burns, the forest will remember every name it has ever swallowed. Chapter 8 The Sound of Bells. That night, the forest was alive. Bells rang, not one, but hundreds, echoing from every direction, each tone layered upon the next until the air itself trembled. No one could tell where the sound came from. It sank into bone, made the heart beat out of rhythm. Dash dash dash. 1 The Awakening of the Bells. Aya stood in the shrine courtyard, hair twisting in a wind that did not exist. Above her, 7 lanterns spun slowly in a crimson circle, glowing brighter with every chime. Within their light a face began to form, Yako-sama, emerging from the fire. Yumi and Sato hid inside the shrine's shadows. Greater than, that's not Aya anymore, Yumi whispered. If the 8th light burns, he'll take her completely, Sato answered, clutching the last sealing scroll with shaking hands. Dash dash dash. 2 The Invisible Bell. A faint chink rang near Sato's ear. He turned, no one. The priest's Suzu bell floated midair, moving on its own, each ring pulsing like a heartbeat. With every sound, the ground cracked, blood seeping upward from the soil. Aya turned toward the noise, her voice weaving into the rhythm. Greater than, he's been waiting too long, he's remembering himself. Dash dash dash. 3 The Face in the Bell. Yumi leaned closer to the floating bell, drawn to its shimmer. From its hollow mouth a childlike voice whispered, "Greater than, thank you for remembering me." She lifted her flashlight, and inside the bell, a smiling face looked back. For a moment their eyes met. The world froze. When Sato pulled her away, it was too late. Her pupils had turned gold. She smiled gently. Greater than, the god has chosen his first memory. Dash dash dash. 4 The 8th Bell. Wind roared through the Torii gate, lanterns flaring white-hot. Above them, clouds twisted into a spiral, an eye opening at its center. Aya raised her hands and spoke softly. Greater than, Hachimatakami, awaken. The 8th bell tolled, deep, heavy, endless. The earth split open, every drop of Aya's blood running down into the cracks, spreading into the shape of a 9-tailed fox. When the ringing stopped, there was only the sound of breathing, not hers, not human. Dash dash dash. 5 The forest's heartbeat. Yumi sank to her knees, laughing through her tears. Greater than, I remember now. I was one of the villagers who sacrificed him. Sato staggered back, desperate. He raised a talisman and shouted the prayer his master had taught him. But his words drowned in the thunder of bells. Tiny bells began to sprout from the trees, the stones, even from human skin. Each time they rang, a memory disappeared. Aya looked at him, half woman, half fox, her eyes the color of dawn. Greater than, you can't stop memory. Sato. When all forget, only the kami remains. Dash dash dash. 6 End of chapter. The 8th bell never stopped. Its echo rolled through the forest like waves. Every trunk, every root revealed faces, human faces, murmuring prayers in unison with the sound. Sato fell to his knees, blood pouring from his ears. In his final moment he saw Aya walk through the Torii gate, followed by a massive fox made of mist and gold light. The gate crumbled. The bells went silent. Only stillness remained, the heartbeat of the forest itself. Chapter 9: The Offerings That Never Spoil. After the night of the 8th bell, the forest fell strangely calm. No wind. No birds. Only a faint sweetness in the air, the scent of wilted flowers that refused to die, of cooked rice that never cooled. One the new altars. At dawn, the villagers at the base of the mountain made a terrifying discovery. Around the forest's edge stood dozens of new wooden altars, freshly built, damp with morning dew. On each sat a bowl of white rice, a few slices of dried fish, an orange, and a half-burned candle. The food was untouched, no rot, no insects. Even after days of rain, the offerings stayed warm. They called the local monk. He approached the forest, muttered a single prayer, then turned pale and fled without a word. That night, every altar vanished. Only small fox-like footprints remained, leading into the trees. To the changed shrine. Aya awoke inside the shrine, alone. Everything had transformed. The rotting wood gleamed new, the Torii gate stood whole again. The courtyard shimmered with rows of subsidiary altars, each bearing offerings as perfect as the villagers had seen. Yet beneath the fragrance of rice and fruit lingered another scent, faint, metallic, unmistakable, blood and smoke. She touched a bowl of rice. It was still warm. A voice spoke inside her head, tender and cruel. Greater than, these are mine. Each soul that remembers my name leaves behind an offering. Every offering is a memory consumed. Aya realized, this was how Yako-sama rebuilt the boundary between God and man. Free the people in the photograph. Yumi burst in, breathless. Greater than, Aya, people in the village are forgetting their own names. She showed Aya a new photo on her phone. A woman in white, standing among 8 glowing altars, holding a cracked fox mask, Aya herself. But the timestamp on the photo was from before Aya had woken up. Aya stepped back, trembling. Greater than who took it? The voice in her mind whispered like a breeze. Greater than, you were already there. Before you knew you were there. For the living offerings. That night, Yumi inspected one of the new altars. She leaned closer to the dried fish, it moved, opening and closing its mouth as if breathing. The rice in the bowls quivered, grains swelling and shifting like tiny living creatures. From a candle's flame rose a translucent shape, a person kneeling, bowing again and again in endless devotion. The voice of Yako-sama drifted through the shrine. Greater than, the offerings do not rot because they never died. They breathe with the memories I have taken. 5 Sato returns. The doors burst open. Sato stumbled inside, soaked in mud, eyes hollow. He had left the forest days ago, yet somehow had come back. Greater than, I thought I escaped, he whispered. But every road led here. The villagers, they've forgotten their homes. They only wander the woods, gathering flowers for offerings. Aya stared. A red mark glowed on the back of his neck. A single kanji. Gong, offering. He was the 7th sacrifice. 6 End of chapter. That night, Aya sat among 8 altars. One lantern flickered to life, casting her shadow long across the ground, stretching toward the Torii gate. A familiar voice murmured from the dark. Greater than, only one offering remains, you. Each altar caught fire. The smoke rose, twisting into hundreds of faces whispering the same phrase. Greater than, we never died, because we were never remembered. When the final altar burned, Aya's reflection in the flames smiled, eyes golden as the dawn. Chapter 10: The Lost Priest. By morning, rain fell heavy and red like diluted blood. It soaked the soil, turning the shrine grounds into a mirror of the sky. The air smelled of rust and incense, the scent of something sacred dying slowly. All the altars had burned down during the night, yet their ashes would not fall. They hung in the air like gray snow, swirling around Aya and whispering forgotten prayers. Among the drifting ash, Yumi found a piece of parchment wedged in the shrine wall. The characters were faint, written in an old hand. Greater than Shisai Tomonaga, the last to know how it ends. Tomonaga, the final priest. Won the journey through the mist. They set out to find the priest's home. According to an old map, it lay far north, along a path known as Yurei no Michi, the road of wandering souls. Every step sank into the ground like walking on flesh. Aya felt something smooth and cold beneath her boots. When she looked down, she realized it was a stone hand, reaching up from the mud, clutching a rosary. Yumi shone her flashlight ahead. A moss-covered boulder blocked the way, carved with a warning. Greater than Kokoyuri Saki, Kaniwa Nemurazu. Beyond this point, the god does not sleep. To the priest's house. After hours of walking, they found it, a wooden hut sealed with sacred rope, its door plastered with fading Ofuda talismans. Inside, dust lay thick as snow. Masks hung on every wall, dozens of fox faces, smiling, weeping, screaming, eyeless. In the center sat a dried corpse, cross-legged in prayer. Before him rested an open scroll, ink faded but still legible. Greater than I Tomonaga, sealed Yako-kami within the mask. I could not kill a kami, I could only deceive him into forgetting himself. When mankind remembers, he remembers too. To end the cycle, the keeper must become the new god. A rusty knife lay beside the scroll, the blade dark with old blood. Aya picked it up, the metal burned cold against her skin. Free the voice in the beads. Around the corpse's neck hung a rosary of blackened prayer beads. When Aya touched it, the beads shivered and a man's voice spoke from within. Greater than, if you hear this, the ritual nears completion. The god does not wish to die, but neither does he wish to remember. He only needs someone to remember for him, forever. The voice faded into a sigh. Aya lifted her eyes, and saw the corpse's eyes slowly open. They glowed dimly, reflecting her face dressed in a priestess's robes, knife in hand. For the buried truth. Yumi turned the scroll over. On the back, written in blood, were the final words. Greater than, when the eighth light burns, the keeper will vanish, and a new god will be born from memory. Aya staggered back. Greater than, he means the kami can't be destroyed, only replaced. She looked down at her wrist. The faint scars there had reshaped into a curling fox sigil. Yumi shouted. Greater than, you have to break it. Aya, end it. Aya shook her head. Greater than, you can't destroy what's made of memory. You can only forget it. 5 The priest's spirit. The house began to tremble. Ash spiraled upward, forming the shape of the priest himself, translucent, sorrowful, bound to his final prayer. Greater than, I tried to forget, he said. But I remembered his name each time I closed my eyes. Do not let him remember you, Aya. If he does, he'll live inside your blood, and the forest will never fall silent again. The spirit turned, carving 8 glowing characters into the wall with its finger. Greater than, Meiyo Wasureyo, Samanakuba Moriwa Nomu. Forget his name, or the forest will consume you. Then the spirit dissolved into mist. 6 End of chapter. Aya knelt on the floor, clutching her head. Outside, thunder rolled, bells rang distantly through the rain. Yumi grasped her shoulder, crying. Aya whispered. Greater than, if I forget him, I'll disappear too. Lightning flashed. On the wall, the fox sigil shone bright. For an instant, Aya saw Yako-sama's reflection smiling behind her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. Far in the forest, the 8th lantern flickered to life, then died. Chapter 11 The Ritual of 8 Crossroads. The sky burned red like an open wound. The forest groaned as if the earth itself were breathing. Aya stood where 8 paths converged, Hachimatagiri, the crossroads of 8 curses. Beneath her feet, 8 circles had been carved into the soil, connected by ropes of scorched straw. Each circle shimmered faintly, pulsing in rhythm with the sound of distant bells. Dash dash dash. 1. The 8 directions. From the scroll of the priest Tomonaga, Aya read aloud. Greater than, when the 8 lanterns have burned. The keeper of the seal must surrender 8 memories. East, light. West, voice. South, blood. North, shadow. Northeast, faith. Southwest, fear. Southeast, name. Northwest, the final memory. With every word she spoke, the symbols around her glowed brighter. Wind tore at her robes. 8 white foxes appeared and knelt in a circle, their eyes like golden suns. A voice rippled through the air, soft and endless. Greater than, you know I cannot die, Aya. Yet still you seek an ending. Dash dash dash. 2. The prayer of the keeper. Aya drew the old dagger and sliced her palm, letting blood drip onto the first circle. A lantern flared to life above her. Greater than, east, light. I return it. She closed her eyes. One by one, she began giving up everything she had left, her laughter, her fear, her name. Each offering dimmed her eyes further. By the 7th, she no longer remembered why she had come. But one name still pulsed within her chest, Yako-sama. Dash dash dash. 3. The 8th offering. Only one circle remained dark, the final memory. A white hand rested on her shoulder. Yako-sama stood behind her, half man, half fox, his tails waving like smoke. His voice was gentle as rain. Greater than, your last memory is yourself. If you offer that, the seal will close forever. But you will cease to be. Aya smiled faintly. Greater than, if forgetting me lets you sleep, then I'll forget. She plunged the dagger into her heart. Blood gushed out, pooling at the center of the crossroads. The forest trembled. Dash dash dash. 4. The forest becomes a shrine. The wind reversed. Aya's blood rose into the air, spiraling upward, transforming into lines of crimson light. The ancient trees bent inward, forming pillars. The ground rose, shaping a stone platform. At the center, where Aya knelt, a single pillar of rock emerged, engraved with words no one could have written. Greater than, Ba-yu-shian shi, Yachamata shrine. Where no one remembers, yet nothing is forgotten. A final bell rang, long and low. Every fox vanished. Silence descended, vast and holy. Dash dash dash. 5. After the ritual. When Yumi awoke, she lay at the forest's edge. The air was clear, the mist gone. The shrine stood restored, new wood gleaming, white banners fluttering. She approached, trembling. Inside, on the altar, lay a framed photograph of Aya, smiling in white robes, her eyes without pupils. A voice drifted through the trees, soft and distant. Greater than, 8 paths are closed. The new keeper has been born. Dash dash dash. 6. End of chapter. Yumi turned away, tears in her eyes. When she looked back one last time, Aya stood under the Torii gate, smiling gently. Greater than, don't remember my name, she whispered. From that day, the villagers called the forest Mori no Kami, the forest of the god. No one spoke its true name again. Chapter 12. The Return of the Kami. Dawn broke over Aokigahara, pale and red. The mist no longer drifted through the trees, it breathed. Light spilled across the forest like milk over black water. Nothing moved, nothing sang. Only a single bell tone echoed again and again, soft as a heartbeat too far away to count. Dash dash dash. 1. The new shrine. The villagers swore they saw it at sunrise, a shrine that hadn't been there before. Standing flawless in the heart of the forest. No one had built it. No one had even gone near the woods for weeks. The Torii gate was bright vermilion, its nameplate freshly carved. Greater than, Wasurararakami, the forgotten god. Those who ventured close said they heard a woman's voice singing faintly. Greater than, forget me, remember me not. Simply bow, and walk past. When they tried to repeat the words, their tongues failed. By the next morning, they could not recall why they had gone there at all. Dash dash dash. 2. The spreading. Days passed. The villages near the mountain began to change. Children called their parents by wrong names. Old people forgot the graves of their ancestors. Photographs in family altars lost their faces, leaving only empty clothes and blurred shadows. Truck drivers passing the forest at night reported seeing a woman in white standing by the roadside. Head bowed, a small bell in her hand. Each time the bell rang, headlights flickered and died. When they came back on, the woman was gone, but the passenger seat was wet with rain and the scent of incense. Free Yumi's dream. Yumi survived, but her eyes glimmered faintly gold in the dark. She began keeping a journal, trying to record what had happened. Every morning, the pages turned blank. One night she dreamed of Aya, seated in the shrine, surrounded by faceless spirits kneeling in silence. Aya spoke without opening her mouth. Greater than, each person who remembers my name forgets their own. When all names fade, the world will be clean again. Yumi wept. Greater than, have you become a god? No, Aya answered. I am the memory of the forest. For the vanishing. Years later, the name Aokigahara disappeared from official maps. Government archives listed it only as protected area, unnamed. Digital maps showed a gray void where the forest should be. Satellite images blurred as if something there refused to be seen. Yet hikers still spoke of hearing bells deep in the mist and of a faint smell of fresh rice carried on the wind. Those who returned always brought back a photograph they didn't remember taking. A red Torii gate, a white shrine, and a young woman smiling faintly. Aya. 5 The Pilgrims. A research team once entered the area, hoping to document the nameless shrine. Their recovered footage lasted exactly 3 minutes. It ended with the camera panning across a Torii gate inscribed, Greater than, Ba-Yushian Shi, Yachimata Shrine. The screen went white. Only the sound of a bell remained. When the team came home, none of them remembered the trip, or even knowing each other. 6 End of chapter. That night, wind swept through the forest carrying the scent of incense and rain. Inside the shrine, Aya sat before the altar, eyes closed, fingers gently tapping the bell. Her voice rose softly. Greater than, when someone remembers me, the forest will wake. When they forget, it will sleep. But my name will never fade. The last lantern flared to life. Then came silence, the perfect stillness of a god smiling in her sleep. Chapter 13 The Forest Devours Names. 3 months after the final ritual, Japan began to change. It started with the maps. Every town bordering Aokigahara lost its name. Signs faded overnight. Ink peeled off paper, paint flaked from wood. No one noticed at first, until the people forgot too. They called it the nameless phenomenon. One The village without a name. At the foot of the mountain stood a village once called Kurosawa. Now its signs were blank. Children asked, where do we live? Their parents smiled uncertainly. Greater than, here. No one remembered what here meant. On every map, the region appeared as a white gap, a tear between 2 coordinates. Each night, a bell rang through the fog. With every chime, another name vanished from memory. 2 layers of memory. Yumi stayed in a hospital on the edge of the affected zone. Each morning, she rewrote her name in a notebook so she wouldn't forget. By evening, the ink dissolved. When a doctor asked for her full name, she hesitated. Greater than, I'm Yumi. No family name? Maybe there used to be one. The man in the next bed muttered the same phrase over and over. Greater than, don't remember. Don't remember. When he died, his tongue was black, his hand clenched around a tiny bell. 3 The expanding forest. With every lost name, the forest grew. From above, satellites captured a dark green circle expanding like spilled ink, swallowing towns, rivers, entire roads. At its center, Yachimata Shrine gleamed red beneath the canopy, lanterns burning day and night. A new inscription appeared on the Torii gate. Greater than, Meyokumori, the forest that devours names. Elders whispered that they'd heard this title once, long ago, but could no longer recall from where. For the voice on the phone. One rainy afternoon, Yumi's phone rang. A voice crackled through the static. Greater than, Yumi, it's Sato. She froze. Greater than, you're alive? Greater than, I think so. I'm standing at the forest's edge. Everything around me has no name. Aya is calling. I have to go to her. The call ended. The next day, his number displayed only static and the sound of a distant bell. 5 the nationwide bells. By the following month, every midnight broadcast across Japan filled with a low chiming, 12 slow, perfect tones. No one knew the source. Those who listened claimed that each night afterward, they forgot one name, a friend, a city, sometimes their own. At the same time, statues of foxes appeared in abandoned shrines, each holding a bell in its jaws. When the wind blew, the bells rang, releasing the faint scent of flowers, the same fragrance that once drifted through Aokigahara. 6 The return. Unable to bear it, Yumi returned to the forest. She carried a single photograph, Aya smiling under the Torii gate. But the trails had changed, the forest had devoured them. In the endless mist, the gate appeared once more, bright red, immaculate, unmarked. There were no words carved upon it, only silence. Then came the whisper, soft and familiar. Greater than, have you forgotten my name yet? Yumi's eyes filled with tears. Greater than, I don't remember, but my heart does. The wind rose. A bell rolled from her pocket, ringing once as it disappeared into the trees. The sound spread outward, gentle, endless, swallowing everything it touched. 7 End of chapter. At sunrise, the maps updated themselves. The entire region west of Mount Fuji turned gray. The caption read, Greater than, unidentified area, no longer exists. Inside the forest, Aya sat at an invisible altar, eyes half open, smiling faintly. 8 bowls of rice steamed before her, fresh and warm, offerings that never spoiled. Outside, wind carried the quiet chant of the nameless. Greater than, her name is the name of the forest. Chapter 14 The Mirror and the Mask. Mist blanketed the forest in white silence. No paths, no birds, no sound, only the faint, slow toll of a bell, coming from beneath the ground. Yumi followed the glow of candles that led her to a new shrine standing in the heart of the woods. Its walls were white and smooth as bone, polished to a mirror's sheen. Every surface reflected her image, distorted, multiplied, alive. 1 The endless mirror. At the center of the hall stood a bronze mirror taller than a man, shining like still water. Before it rested a cracked fox mask, its grin split wide, its eyes hollow. Carved on its surface were the words, Greater than, Kagami wa oboeteru. The mirror never forgets. Yumi looked into the mirror. Her reflection blinked, but she didn't. The image changed. A woman in white priestess robes, face hidden behind a fox mask, surrounded by countless bowing, faceless figures. Greater than, Aya, Yumi whispered. From within the glass came her answer, soft as a sigh. Greater than, you still remember me, Yumi. That's why the forest still exists. 2 The reflected past. The mirror rippled like blood in water. Through it, Yumi saw flashes of every memory, Aya, Sato, Kenji, the villagers, the priest, the entire story looping again and again. Aya's reflection spoke. Greater than, what you're seeing is only memory. This world is a reflection that Kami created so he could be remembered. Yumi's voice shook. Greater than, if I forget, will it end? Only when everyone forgets, the reflection replied. 3 The living mask. Yumi reached for the fox mask on the altar. The moment her fingers touched it, it trembled. Cold seeped into her skin. The mask moved, pressing itself to her face like a living thing. She tried to scream, no sound. Inside her head, hundreds of voices whispered in unison. Greater than, don't forget, don't forget. Don't forget. Her body convulsed. In the mirror's reflection, she no longer saw herself, but a white fox standing upright, its fur matted with blood. For the final confrontation. From the mirror stepped Aya, radiant and calm. She and Yumi stood facing each other, two halves of the same soul. Greater than, you can take my place, Aya said. You still have a name. Wear the mask, and you'll keep my memory. Remove it, and I'll finally sleep. Yumi's hands trembled. Greater than, if I keep it, will I disappear? Aya smiled sadly. No, you'll become the forest's new memory. Wind swirled through the shrine, carrying the scent of incense and old blood. Yumi took a breath, lifted the mask from her face, and placed it gently back on the altar. Greater than, then sleep, she whispered. 5. The breaking of the mirror. The mirror shattered with a deafening scream. Shards flew like sparks, each reflecting a fragment of time. Aya, the priest, Kenji, Sato, the villagers, all frozen between prayer and fear. The fragments rose into the air, glowing, and scattered like fireflies into the forest canopy. The bells stopped. The shrine dimmed to gray. Yumi collapsed in silence. 6. End of chapter. When she awoke, morning light spilled through the trees. The shrine was gone, only grass damp with dew remained. In her hand lay a single shard of the mirror. She looked into it and saw herself smiling. But the eyes staring back were not hers, they were gold. Wind passed through the forest, carrying a voice too soft to be human. Greater than, when someone remembers. I return. Chapter 15. The Forgotten Prayer. The forest was silent again. Too silent. The kind of stillness that comes only when the world is holding its breath. Morning light spilled through the trees in faint ribbons. Mist curled low around the roots like incense smoke. There were no bells, no wind. Only the memory of both. 1. The Last Keeper. Yumi wandered through the hollow where the shrine had once stood. Now there was only grass and a shallow depression in the earth, the shape of an altar long removed. She carried the mirror shard in her hand, its edge catching the light like a piece of frozen fire. On its surface, faint words appeared, written in her own reflection. Greater than, when there is no one left to remember. The kami will sleep again. Her lips trembled as she whispered. Greater than, Aya, you're free now. But the forest sighed in reply, soft, sorrowful, eternal. 2. The Forgotten Prayer. At sunset, she reached a clearing where a stone pillar stood half buried. Across its face ran a prayer too eroded to read, except for one line. Greater than, Inoriwa na o sutiru tameni aru. Prayer exists to let go of names. Yumi knelt, pressing her hands together. She didn't know the words anymore, yet her mouth formed them instinctively, an old melody, older than any language. As she prayed, a wind rose from nowhere, carrying her voice away like dust. Her memories followed, the sound of Aya's laughter, Kenji's camera, the red Torii gate. All of it faded, slipping from her mind like water through her fingers. When she opened her eyes, she no longer remembered why she was kneeling. 3. The forest sleeps. Night fell gently. The lanterns that had once burned crimson now shone white, pure and faint, like souls at rest. A single fox crossed the clearing, paused beside Yumi, and touched its nose to her hand. For a moment, its eyes glowed gold, then dimmed to black. Somewhere deep beneath the earth, a bell chimed once. Then silence. The forest exhaled. And for the first time in centuries, it slept. 4. Epilogue. The Whisper of Names. Years later, hikers found a small wooden charm at the base of Mount Fuji. Its surface was blank, no name, no symbol. But when held to the ear, it whispered softly, like a lullaby carried on wind. Greater than, when you remember me. Remember also to forget. No one knew who made it. No one ever found the shrine again. But on certain nights, when mist gathers thick over Aokigahara, people still claim to see lanterns drifting through the trees. And a woman in white standing quietly beneath an unseen gate. Watching, waiting, smiling. They say the forest sleeps now. But the wind still carries a whisper through the trees. A woman's voice, soft, patient, eternal. If you ever wandered too deep into the mist and hear a bell ring without hands, do not speak, do not pray. Because some memories, once awakened, remember you in return.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.